Hey guys, so I wanted to give you an update on how I was doing raising brine shrimp as pets. You may have seen the other video that I did about this. I don't know if I titled it that or if I included it in a favorites video. Yeah, I think I included it in a favorites video. So you may not even know what I'm talking about. So I used to have sea monkeys years ago. And that sea monkeys is just a brand name of brine shrimp that can be raised as pets. And well, you can raise any brine shrimp as pets. But I bought another kit called Aqua Dragons not too long ago. And I've been having a blast with this. Now, the container that it came in that you keep them in, I discovered there was a crack in it, and I think what happened is the crack was probably already there, and then it just got big enough eventually for me to notice it. So I transferred them to a glass jar that I washed out a glass jar that had um, peppers or pickles or something like that, and I washed it out real good, dried it, and I was using that. Um, and that worked out fine. But then yesterday I found this. And I thought this was so pretty. And it was at Dollar Tree. It was only $1. And they all just came over to this side of the glass near me. So, yeah, you're not going to be able to see them that well. Look at those two at the bottom. Um, see if I can turn this around. So anyways, they are doing wonderful. So I wanted to show you some information other than the basics in case this was something that you're interested or it's really fun. But there's a lot of things that you can do to help them live longer and have a better quality of life. So one of the things that you're going to have to do is oxygenate the water. Now, when you buy one of these kits, they come with something like this. And this I find to be sort of dangerous because when you put this in the water um, and then you pump air into it, there's always the danger that you're going to forget to pull it up before you release it, and then you could suck them into the tube and injure them or worse. So I haven't even been using these at all. Another way that you can oxygenate the water, and this is going to sound crazy, but it really doesn't hurt them at all, and it oxygenates the water a million times better than these little plastic things would do with no risk of injury, is just take some sort of container that is similar in size to what you're keeping them in. I use this. This I got when they opened a Dollar General near me on opening day. They gave everybody one of these cups. And so this works perfectly because it's about the same size as the container that I'm keeping them in. So I just pour this into the cup. And when you get down towards the bottom, whatever brine shrimp are left in there, just kind of swirl the container around before you dump the rest of it in here, because they're going to fight to remain in the container they're in because they don't know what's going on, and it's just instinctive to try to fight against whatever is happening like that. So just swirl it around and then pour the rest in. And then do the same thing, except pour it back to the container that you want to keep them in. And that really oxygenates the water because the motion of all that water churning around is really oxygenating it so much better than these foolish little things do. Okay, another thing is food. When you buy one of these kits to raise them as pets, they give you algae. And I transferred it to another container because I didn't want to spill the little envelope that it came in. And so this is just algae. And then they give you one of these little scoops. Now, my kit was missing the instruction booklet, but I was able to find out what I needed to know online. Plus, you know, there's other sources. But this little measuring spoon that comes with it, with the algae, is a good thing to have because this is about how much you want to give them. You don't ever want to give them more than this because it's going to cloud the water and um, diminish the oxygen if you put too much food in there because they're just little guys. They can only eat so much. So another thing though is you don't want to feed them every single day. You only want to feed them every 2 to 3 days. I'm always afraid that I'm going to forget, so I normally do it every other day, but it probably could go 3 days depending on, you know, the quality of the water. If you look at this right now, you might be able to see little green specks floating on the top. Well, that's from the food that I gave them this morning. But that's not the only thing you can feed your sea monkeys. There's actually a couple other things that you can feed them. And one thing is spirulina, or is it spirulina? I'm not really sure how to pronounce that. But yeah, this I believe is a type of algae. So you can buy these, you can buy this in the capsule form, and then you can just open these capsules and put it into your little food container. But definitely don't give them a whole capsule's worth at once. That would be way too much. But yeah, this is a type of algae that you can get, and that is okay to give brine shrimp. Now, another thing you can give them is yeast. And one thing I noticed, oh, and this isn't just like regular yeast like you would buy to bake bread. I believe this is brewer's yeast. And I'm not sure, it would probably be very difficult to buy a small quantity of this because it's usually sold in large quantities for people who want to make beer. But if you can find it in smaller packages, yeah, brewer's yeast is something that they love. I don't give that to them all the time. I more or less give it to them as a treat because they go so crazy for it. Another reason why I don't like to give that to them all the time is it makes them, it acts as an aphrodisiac, we'll put it that way. And I feel like you don't want to have them doing that more than what they would normally do it, like in nature, because it could like overtax the females. Because if you look, yeah, you're not going to be able to see that, but like right now when I look at them, I have a couple situations where there's already a male attached to the female, and then another male comes along and tries to attach himself too, and then she can't really swim because she's got two bodies hanging from her. So you don't really want to encourage too much of that, we'll say. But yeah, they go crazy over the brewer's yeast. And this came with a microscope kit that we had ordered. And it also came with some brine shrimp eggs. So if I feel like, you know, I'd like to have more in the tank, or maybe I might want to start another tank, I've got some brine shrimp eggs. Now, if you go to any place that sells aquarium type fish, you're going to be able to find brine shrimp eggs to purchase. So you don't really have to get one of these kits that is sort of a gimmicky thing like sea monkeys or aqua dragons. You don't have to spend that much money. You can just buy the brine shrimp eggs, and I don't know if they sell the algae there or not. Not sure about that because most people don't keep brine shrimp as a pet. They raise it to feed their fish. But you can always just get this if you, I got this at Walmart, by the way. Spring Valley is a Walmart brand. But you can buy this in other brands as well. But yeah, I don't know if places that sell aquarium fish also sell the algae separately. I think they do, but I'm not positive on that because I haven't had to get any yet, because what they give you in the kit is going to last you a really long time. Plus I have this now, so I don't really need to buy the algae separately. Now, another thing that is really important that most people never get to this stage, most people who buy one of those kits, they buy it, they use it, and then the brine shrimp die for various reasons, and that's the end of it. They don't continue from there. But you can make your brine shrimp, you can keep them just starting off with that same original kit for a long time, actually indefinitely, if they keep mating and laying eggs, and then those hatch, and so it can go indefinitely. But the only way that's going to happen is if, number one, you don't overfeed them, number two, you oxygenate the water every single day, but thirdly, you're going to have to get rid of debris that's in your tank, for lack of a better word. And you're going to have to add additional water at some point, but you can't just add plain water because they're brine shrimp. Brine means salt, so you're going to need salt water, but you can't use table salt. That'll kill them. You've got to use a special kind of salt. Now, I just picked this up at Walmart because when I bought my kit, the pet stores were all closed because everything was on lockdown. So the only stores that I had available to me at that time were like Walmart and Target. And fortunately, Walmart sells aquarium salt. And like I said, this isn't just ordinary salt. This is a special salt that people use that raise tropical fish or goldfish or something like that. So it says the brand name is Jungle. It's very inexpensive. I don't remember the exact price, but trust me, it's very inexpensive. And it says for tropical fish and goldfish, reduce stress, adds beneficial electrolytes, cleans aquariums and accessories. Use monthly as a maintenance. Now, what I do is when I notice that I just made some salt water this morning and added it to this to get it at about the level that I wanted it. But what's going to happen is when I oxygenate the water and I pour from one container to the other, at the bottom, if there's no, you want to make sure you get all the brine shrimp out. But once you do that, there's always going to be a little bit of water left at the bottom. Now that's going to have like dead cells, hopefully no dead brine shrimp. I've lost very few brine shrimp. They've been thriving, especially since I learned all these other things that I'm telling you about. But at the bottom is going to be like uneaten food, dead cells, brine shrimp poop, all kinds of, sludge, disgusting stuff. So you want to just pour that off into the sink, and that way you'll keep the water cleaner because everything is going to settle to the bottom. Now, if you look at the bottom of my tank, you're going to see very few particles of any kind because I try to keep this as clean as possible. So every once in a while, though, your water level is going to drop. And what you're going to do is you're going to make up in a separate container, you're going to make up another batch of salt water that you can add to this. The ratio that I use is 1 tablespoon of salt to 2 cups of water. Now, if you find that that's more than what you want, if you're keeping them in a small container like this, you're not going to obviously be replacing 2 cups of water at a time. So you can just cut it in half again. You can make 1 cup of water to 1 teaspoon of salt, because 3 teaspoons of salt would equal 1 tablespoon. So just, cut the recipe down to whatever you need it to be. So what I usually do is, when all of this, the water and the brine shrimp, are in my other container, I take the salt water that I made and I dump that into the base of my primary container. And then I add my brine shrimp and water that I already had back in. You got to be careful though, because you want to make sure that you don't put more than what you're going to need in here, because you're always going to have those few brine shrimp swimming around at the bottom that you're going to have to add in. And if you have too much water in here, how are you going to get them in there? You don't really want to handle them any more than you have to. Like, you wouldn't want to stick a spoon in there and try to scoop them out, because you could injure them. They're little guys, and they're very, very fragile little creatures. So you don't really want to touch them or handle them, because you could injure them. So, and I wouldn't recommend trying to suck them up with one of these things either. Yeah, they're just too delicate for that. So if you just keep a container of this around, you can make them some more salt water anytime they need it and replenish the level in your tank. Now, you don't have to have this small of a tank. You can have something bigger, but keep in mind, if you're going to oxygenate the water the way that I showed you, just picture yourself trying to pour off a big giant container into another one. It's not going to work. And you can't have a traditional filtration system, because these guys would get sucked into that and it would kill them. Not only that, but the eggs that they lay would definitely go into the filtration system, and then you'd never get the next generation. I have about, just since the time I started keeping these from the original kit, I have about 3 generations in here. I have my original ones, and then their children, and then I did take this container that has brine shrimp eggs that came with a microscope that we bought, and I sprinkled a little bit in there one day just to see, if they would hatch. And so I have 3 generations in here, but not all from the same parents. What else can I tell you? If you're not successful, one thing you can do is you can let all the water evaporate in the container, and then add your salt water and start over. If you don't have any brine shrimp eggs, they will like regenerate with the eggs that crystallize and dehydrate. It's pretty amazing. They're very, very resilient in that sense. Oh, and by the way, don't use tap water. When you're making the seawater, use distilled water. Distilled water, if you don't have any distilled water and you're not able to go to the store, I have in a pinch used spring water, but don't ever use tap water, because the water that comes out of your sink has had tons of chemicals added to it by the water department, and all those things would not be good for your brine shrimp. So distilled water is best, but spring water is like second best, because nothing is added to that either. So I think that's it, you guys. If you have any questions, let me know, because I've been doing really good with this. I mean, these guys are so healthy, and I think I've got just the right ratio of salt, and you can see that it's got, the water is like got a slight green color to it. That's because I give them algae to eat most of the time. But yeah, you can give them brewer's yeast. So that's it. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.